What's up, YouTube? It is your boy JB, and we are here today with a review for Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, the season 11 reunion part 3, you guys. So before we get into this review, if you guys are watching this video or any other on the channel and are not yet subscribed, then I need you guys to hit that subscribe button. Do me that big favor, stop taking me out on this date. Hit that subscribe button, like button, share button, notifications on. And with that out the way, without further ado, let's discuss the reunion, shall we? All right, you guys. So this reunion, part of this part 3 reunion, it opens up and we are still talking about Kathy, Kim, and Kyle at this point, right? So Andy's asking, Kyle, did she think that she did anything wrong with American Woman? And Kyle says, no, I don't think I did anything wrong with the show. She says the show was supposed to be a love letter to her mother, right? So then Andy asks the question of, how did you and Kathy even, get back to talking to each other? Kathy says that it was her that, made the initiation to reach out to, Kyle. But Kyle says it was their kids because their kids are pretty close and their kids, enjoyed going to each other's homes for the holidays, right? So that's that. So then somehow, we talked about the trips and we talked about Kathy, driving herself. They asked what the lady's name was, so she does know the lady's name. I still didn't like when she said the lady, but I know she said on Watch What Happens Live that the reason why she called her the lady is because she didn't want to say her name on camera, but she said her name on camera at the reunion. So, we also talked about Garcelle and the fact that she didn't know all of her 6 siblings and her sister Carol, right? So she was like, he said, Andy asked how was that with her sister. She says, well, the interesting thing is my sister and I, we've had, our issues, and just watching them has kind of been eye-opening, right? So then, Andy asked, either Andy asked a question or a viewer asked a question, but someone asked the question of, actually it was a viewer, does Kyle have Kim's Zoom number? She says, I do. She says, Kim supports her, and also Kim supports Kathy being on this show, because he also asked, how does Kim feel about Kathy being on the show? She says she's very supportive, right? So at this point, all 3 of the sisters are in a good place. I hope it stays that way, right? Because it's really sad that their issues came up on this show, and it is at points driven wedges between all 3 of them. So I just hope that they stay on the, on the right path, right? So let's move on. Now, the next part of the episode, I was literally tuned out, so I'm not even talking about because it's not in my notes, where they were talking about the fashion, so I don't have it, so I'm not going to discuss it, right? So after that, we move over to talk about Crystal, right? So we talk about Crystal and Sutton when they were out there in La Quinta, right? Yeah, they were in La Quinta. You guys remember the situation about the coat when Sutton went to Crystal's room, knocked on the door. Crystal didn't hear her, and she went in anyways and still put the jacket down, which I still have the same stance that I had even when that episode aired, right? Crystal didn't hear her knock on the door. So even if you knock on a person's door, that doesn't say, just because they don't say, just because you knock doesn't mean walk in. It means wait to be acknowledged. You still have to wait to be acknowledged, right? So Crystal just wishes that, she and Sutton had gotten off on a better foot, right? Because if they hadn't gotten off on a better foot, this probably wouldn't have happened, right? So then Crystal starts talking about the hate speeches that she's gotten, directed toward her since being on the show. And I actually saw one, right? And Sutton apologized, for any part that she had in it, which I'm not going to sit here and say anything negative about Sutton. Sutton didn't have anything to do with the ignorance that people want to spew on social media, right? Because I definitely saw somebody it's this one, and I forgot what the Twitter was, but there's one particular Twitter account, right? This person was coming at Ebony. This person was coming at Crystal. This person was coming at Tiffany Moon from Real Housewives of Dallas. Like, this person was coming at everybody else, right? And saying that they need to be more like Garcelle. You know what? I wish I knew what that Twitter account was, because I really would love to see what that person had to say when Garcelle said that, she felt like she was, an outsider. So, yeah, that's really that. So Crystal did talk about, her body issues, right? And why she told her mom before the show aired. And I'm proud of Crystal for saying that, right? It took a lot of courage to, admit that she has body dysmorphia, right? So let's move on, you guys. Part three is pretty much like part two, huh? A dud. So then we move over, right? And we talk about one of the best friends of the Housewives. You guys can disagree with me, but I think Kathy is one of the best friends of that we've had in quite some time, right? So we just spent a little bit of time with Kathy talking about, the kids, Nikki and Paris growing up in the Waldorf. What was that like? She says it was fun. It was cool, right? Up until the point where Paris was trying to sneak out, right? So also we asked, Andy asked Kyle, the Kathy that we saw on television, is this? Oh shit, y'all didn't mean to burp me in my face. Is this the same Kathy that She's like, yeah. She's like, it is. And Andy made a comparison, and I was like, you know what? I did not think about it. He sees where Kim gets it from, and they play a flashback of Kim. I'm like, you are so right. Kathy and Kim do have have the same kind of quirks. And Kathy was like, you guys don't know the real Kyle. If you know her, she's basically the same. I'm loving the fact that they are, rekindling their relationship, because family is family at the end of the day, right? I say that, but my situation with mine, we ain't even gonna get into the situation with my family, but hey. So they asked the question of where did Kathy's, thing for the fan come from. It was their mother who did it, because Kathy and Kyle both said that their mother used to have this big, I wonder if they meant like a big industrial fan, right? That she had this big fan that was at the foot of her bed. That's actually how I sleep. I sleep with a fan at the foot of my bed. I sleep with the ceiling fan on, and during the winter, I close the vent because I don't like heat. I hate heat for some odd reason. I can't sleep when the room gets too hot. I can't sleep. So I usually close my vent. And sleep that way. Now, when I was living with my mom, she was like, you are gonna die, and I'm gonna tell you guys why. Because my room at our house, the vent was literally over my bed. So when she would turn the heat on, it would just whoosh. It would just drop down. It would blow down in my face and wake me up, and I couldn't breathe. So I got to the point where I would close that vent, ceiling fan on, box fan on, and window up. During the winter, she's like, you're going to freeze to death. Never did. She said, now there would be times where I would get up and close the window. If it got too cold, I would close the window. But other than that, for the most part, I slept like that year round. So, let's see. I'm at the end of my notes. But we can continue to talk, because this is, so what we're going to do now is we're going to just talk about Erica, right? Honestly, at this point, I'm a little over Erica, because I don't know what to believe with Erica, right? Because Erica has she's told so many tall tales, fables, and fairy tales, right? And I'm gonna still keep the same stance, because even Andy asked the question, how many of the ladies think that Erica knew what Tom was doing? And nobody, they said they didn't believe that she knew anything. And I'm going to keep that same stance, right? I don't necessarily believe that Erica knew the extent of what Tom was doing, right? But I also don't think that Erica was oblivious as well, right? You're living this lavish lifestyle. You have to at some point wonder, where is the money coming from, right? You have to wonder that at some point, like, okay, did he, even if Tom won big on these cases, right? You don't get the majority of the money from these claims, right? You get you negotiate when you sign on a client, and they sign that paperwork. It tells them, if this case goes to court and we win, it tells you how much. Because I've gone to court before, right? I went to court. I had a lawyer go to court on behalf of me, when this woman, she literally ran into the back of my car. I knew why she ran into the back of my car, because the street that we were driving on, it was sunny out, right? And the sun was blinding. And I was actually turning, and I flip. So when it comes to me turning, I flip my signal light on long before I turn. That way, it gives you time enough to either slow down or try to go around. Well, she didn't see my signal light because of the sun, so she didn't realize that I was turning. So when I turned into the restaurant, boom, and literally I was in the restaurant. I had literally I was almost in the parking lot, and boom, she ran into me. So we went and got a lawyer because her company, her insurance company, they were they were literally trying to give me the runaround about it. They were trying to see if they were. I've had this happen twice now. I've had this happen twice where they want to say it could be shared responsibility, and I'm like, how can that be shared? I didn't contribute anything to that. This is before I worked in the insurance industry, but like, how can it be shared responsibility when I did nothing? Your driver hit the back of my car, and then this other guy, when I was driving down the street, pulled out of his driveway and T-boned me, and the guy was like, well, we just got to make sure that there's no shared responsibility. How can it be shared? A car can only go one of two directions. You can drive straight or you can reverse. You can't go side to side in a car. I actually said that to him. I'm like, how can I have shared responsibility when a car can only go one of two directions, forward and backwards? It can't go side to side. So I didn't just slide my car over into him. So he started laughing. He said, I know. He says, I know. He says, it sounds stupid. I said, it really does. So that's that. So even with that, when I got the lawyer for the first case, when I got rear-ended, I signed my paperwork, and the lawyer told me right then and there, if we have to go to court, he'll fight on my behalf. But if we settle, even if whatever money I get, he'll get a certain percentage of it, right? And that's exactly what he did, because I did get a settlement, and he took a percentage of it, right? So that's the thing with Tom, like his clients that he defended. Even if they won millions and millions of dollars, right? Tom doesn't take home that much money. He takes home, he's not going to take home he's not going to take home pennies, but he's not going to take home nearly as much as the victims have, right? Like, come on. So then Kyle wants to address the situation that happened between Maurizio, PK, herself, and Dorit, right? And so at this point, I guess Erica must have said some stuff in the blogs, on Twitter, wherever, right? I know she did, because I actually saw the tweet that she tweeted. So Kyle wants to address that. And Erica says that watching that dinner with them really hurt, right? Because, she and PK, they're in a better place. He's been supportive of her, and they've just been trying to, work on their relationship. So then Dorit and Kyle, they both literally backtracked. Dorit gave some dumbass story about, when I was trying to recount the story, it just got worse and worse and worse. No, it didn't, Dorit. It didn't get worse and worse and worse. It got worse because when you say the shit out loud, it's ridiculous. Let's repeat the stories that Erica has said, right? So Erica has said that Tom, no. We're going to say that one for next week because it's going to come up again. The one that they were talking about, they were talking about both of them at the table, right? But let's talk about the one that Dorit is talking about. So Dorit is talking about the story about Erica's son going to see Tom, going to visit Tom, check on Tom. It snowed and his car flipped over, 6 times, 5 times, something like that. When you listen to that, how much these people are anomalies. Like, let's be real. Like, come on, Dorit. So they tried to backtrack her, right? So then Garcelle chimes in, right, and asks Erica, can't you understand why we all would feel that, why we all would be worried that we could be grouped in? And she said yes, but it's, but legally there's nothing there's nothing there. That is true, Erica. There is nothing legal there, but in the court of public opinion, people will think and put out stories that, oh my God, so the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills star Erica Girardi, her husband Tom Girardi, has been accused of stealing money from orphans, widows, and plane crash victims. Do any of the housewives know? Were they in on this? Like, you have to think about, that's what they're talking about. I don't think that any of the women thought that legally they could be involved unless they had taken money from Tom and Erica. That's it. But they were just looking at it in the form of court of public opinion. They would be guilty by association with you and Tom. So at this point, Andy hit the nail on the head when it came to Erica. It's the same thing that I've been saying. I know a lot of other people that I watch have been saying the same thing as well about Erica. When it comes down to Erica, this whole season, Erica has made herself the victim instead of the actual victims. And even in part one of the reunion, you call them the alleged victims. They're not alleged. They're real people. What Tom did to them is alleged. So, what am I talking about? I know what I'm talking about. So, I had a point. That's what it was. I had a point and I don't forget what it was. But yeah, the victims are not alleged. His crimes are alleged, right? Oh, okay, I know what I meant. So Erica at this point, she's becoming very, very defensive. And I'm like, why are you so defensive? She came at Crystal, right? Because Crystal asked the question of, why are you not so mad at Tom? She said, I am mad at him. I'm very mad. Am I mad now? Am I mad enough for you now? Like she was actually being passive aggressive. It's just like, girl, what are you doing? She's asking you a question because all season long, you have been defending Tom. So she's still basically trying to make herself the victim. It was annoying, right? It really was. Now she does say that she feels horrible about the victims. I'm like, it took you until this point to say you feel horrible. Then they talked about her posts on social media. She says, well, I have to do that because that's how I get paid. I mean, ain't nothing wrong with that, right? It just be the post. It just be the captions. If you could caption things differently, it wouldn't be a big issue, but you don't. And honestly, I don't think Erica gives that much of a fuck. Just like her songs, how many do I give? That's really what it gives me. But that's the review, you guys. Let me know what you guys thought about it. Leave your comments in the comment section below. Subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell button so that way you guys are notified when I drop anything else. Share the video and into the next one. Stay safe out there. Take care of yourselves. Remember, wash your hands, wear a mask, socially distance, be blessed. And I'm going to catch you guys later.